New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
And hello again, dear ones. Reverend Robert with you over here.
Rev Z right here.
And Rev Gina right here.
And this is New Thought Today here on the New Thought Media Network. It happens every Tuesday afternoon, 2 o'clock Mountain Time. We gather together and take a look at the evolving experience that is this philosophy, faith, and way of life that we call New Thought. You never know where this conversation is going to go, but it always goes somewhere really cool from my experience. So we're so grateful to welcome Reverend Gina onto this program. Now, those that are fans of New Thought Media Network, you probably recognize Reverend Gina. She wears a number of hats around here. She's on our prayer team. So you see her predominantly on Monday mornings, and I forget the other one.
Monday and Friday.
Friday mornings, there it is. She also has a show on Thursdays called Finding the Joy in the Journey. And that is, I like to check my calendar because I have way too many numbers in my head. 1 o'clock Mountain Time, 3 o'clock Eastern on Thursdays. You can catch her on that. And if that's not enough, Rev Gina is the senior minister of the Center for Spiritual Living Greater Boston. And she shares just her talk on our all-day Sunday programming at 3 p.m. Mountain Time. It's a replay of her talk from the morning, and we share that back out at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, part of our all-day Sunday programming. So, Rev Gina, it's a long time getting you on this program, but I'm grateful you're here. What did I miss? What do we need the people to know that I forgot to say there?
I am grateful to be here. It's wonderful. I love being part of the network, what we stand for, and the expansion that's happening is exciting. So it's going to be fun.
Yes. All right. So, well, let's just dive right into it, because before we were getting ready here, folks, we're all sitting around the back room chatting and this and that and everything. And what do we want to talk about? And the truth is, we want to talk about Juneteenth, and we want to talk about it, I think, from a slightly different perspective, let's say, than maybe what you heard a lot about yesterday. And I saw an article yesterday that spoke to the fact that Juneteenth should not be a joyous celebration. It should be a somber remembrance. And I know that's not maybe necessarily the most popular opinion. I'm sure there are those opinions. And now that it is a national holiday, I was surprised by how many people yesterday made an excuse for what the bank's not open, the library, the post office isn't open, and they made it about, it's a holiday, but they didn't actually say it's Juneteenth. I'm not going to give up the ghost on who any of those folks are, but if we're looking at the future of New Thought, if we're looking at where New Thought is moving in the world and heading in the future, I think the remembrance, the honoring, the celebration, maybe we'll figure it out today, maybe we won't, but Juneteenth has to be part of the emerging culture of New Thought, I believe, as well.
Yeah, I'll jump in first. And I think it should be a combination. Like here in Denver, when MLK Day comes around, they have a thing called a parade, right? So they blended a march and a parade together so that it's sort of a remembrance and a celebration. Because I mean, especially for us, if we're looking at a holistic approach to life, we have to look at it that way. That I think that's the most positive way to look at it. Yes, there is a celebration to say that, finally, after some long time after slavery was over, they finally got to be recognized for their freedom. I mean, I always say, I'm from Florida, and it took about a month for that news to travel from Florida to Texas, because in Florida, the end of slavery was in May 20th, right? And so it took just about a month to go from Florida to Texas. And I think it's a whole thing. And it's, as we were saying before, there is a healing that needs to take place on all parts, right? And so it's tough. You can't please all the people all the time, but I'll just leave that at that. But I think we have to honor the day, and I think it has to be put out there to reconcile. The only way we're going to get back whole is we have to reconcile these pieces that have kept us separated, and some ways continue to keep us separated. We have to reconcile it.
Whoop, Rev Gina, I think we've got you on mute.
Sorry about that.
There
This
we go.
morning's Science of Mind magazine actually had in it, joy is a form of resistance, because you're not being held down. You're not being held back. Nothing is keeping you from what is in you, the truth that you are. And I think that when we celebrate anyone's experience and ancestry, it is a joyful thing. And I think that if we, if I were to speak to you about my Italian heritage, you wouldn't feel badly. Yes, there's been things that have happened and it's nowhere near, but the point is that it's a different experience. Why is it that we would look at anyone's heritage as anything but honor? That's Poe in the background, by the way, who's never around until you don't want her there. So we can say hi to Poe. But my point is that, we get a choice. We get a choice of how we speak about things. And if it's a charged event, then ask ourselves, why do I feel this is charged? Why am I not entering into this conversation in a place of, this is someone's experience, this is important to someone that I care about, what can I learn about it? And it's not about blame, it's not about shame, and it's important that we use language that is loving and inclusive, especially in what we teach, because we know that there's only one. And if we are continuously speaking in separation, then we are never bringing it together in love.
Yeah. And you I'm sorry, Robin, you said something there about words. One thing Robin and I talk about often is this whole idea of beginning to use new words, and that we should use the thesaurus, our cell phones that we carry around with us, to come up with new words, because now a lot of the words are charged. Like for me, when I hear somebody say amazing, it's just amazing, it's just as flat as a pancake. I'm like, I am so sick of the word amazing, because it has become flat because it's overused, and there's no power, there's no charge, as you said, in that word to get me to thinking in a different way. And I think that's what we have to do. And I think that's what I was picking up from you there, is that we have to come up with new language to reframe some of this stuff.
And it's really coming into anything as love. So it's listening with new ears. It is being as a child. Whenever I step into a conversation about Juneteenth, I listen in a new way, because I don't know enough about it. I had a conversation on Thursday on this network. You can go back and watch on the Finding the Joy in the Journey with Tracy Brown, who's amazing. And I asked her, because I don't know enough to be the one to speak about it. And she gave such beautiful, not just a summary of what it is, and you know, how do we become love with it in a whole different language than I heard it described before. You know, it is an event, it's historical, and and people have a right to be frustrated that it wasn't ever brought up before, that it was revisionist, that it was hidden, that it was denied. And the truth is that, okay, now the truth can come out because what's revealed is healed. It's time to let it heal.
I think you bring up a great point. I won't say amazing point, but I think you bring up a great point, in that, especially those of us in lighter skinned body temples, those of us wearing a light skinned bodysuit, we've got to be in that place of wonder, of inquiry, of questioning, not the questioning of why is this, or how does this work, or any, but the questioning that says, I am curious. I'm curious to know more about the human experience in all its various forms. And this is a day now, federally and mandated, if you will, federally, and I want a nicer word for that, federally preserved, inspired, a day to be in that place of inquiry, that place of curiosity that says, what don't I know? Because especially as a white guy, I don't know. This wasn't part, and I agree, right? We've got to make sure it isn't about that. It doesn't become about beating up someone that does. Oh, you don't know. Oh, you're not celebrating that, or right? Or you didn't mention that yesterday. Why not? We have to come from that place of love and compassion. I'm reflecting that just yesterday I ended up in a very deep conversation with a colleague on a different topic, but this person was just confused, didn't know how to work with, and we were talking about trans issues, and just didn't understand how to address, what words to use, what words might be harmful or painful. And I'd like to see Juneteenth become that. I'm also thinking maybe we just need to make it a whole month.
Yeah.
So we got Black History Month in February, which we already know we ripped you guys off by giving you 28-day month as Black History Month. So let's make up for it by making, May 20th to June 20th can be Black Freedom Month.
Yeah.
Black Heritage, Black celebrate a mix of the parade, a celebration and an honoring, an upliftment and a remembrance that together we're going forward, because you've been celebrating Juneteenth the whole heck of a lot longer than any of us have.
And the interesting thing about this is that a lot of people think it was such a long time ago. We're only talking 158 years ago, right? And I saw a piece yesterday that they had someone who was like 102 or like 106 who was marching in a parade in Texas to honor this, right? So we're talking about somebody who was only 58 years ago from this. So their parents, definitely their grandparents that they probably knew, were affected directly by this situation. And so it's not that long ago.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that we show up as love every day. It's not a month, it's not a day. It is being in a place of this being a common conversation, that nothing is taboo, because the more we speak about something, the more comfortable it is, the more we realize that it is just as any other atrocity has been through history. And it's not to desensitize, it is to become sensitive and aware.
Yeah.
And to realize that it's not about a day. It's about emotions. It's about what's in our DNA. It is about the false beliefs that people were raised with on sides that didn't even exist. because there is no side, there's only one. So it's really being in a place of giving that light of day to a topic that is that allows us to become, to create the world we choose to see.
Yeah, and that's I when I think about that in light of our philosophy, looking at where New Thought is going, right? It to me, we talk a lot about oneness globally, if you will, and unity, but to put that into practice is quite the feat, right? Because that means we have to accept all of it, understanding that life is perfect just the way it is. We don't need to change it, i.e., we don't need to eliminate the bad things, so-called, or the things that get us upset. That's all a part of the perfect idea of life. Because you take one of those away, it's not life anymore. It becomes something else. And as New Thought, if we're looking for this unity, this oneness, and this continuation of life ad infinitum, we don't get hung up on the bumps in the road. We don't get bumped up. We don't get tripped up by the on ramp to the major highway. I know I got to slow down when I get ready to get on the highway, and the traffic might be there and maybe cameras, but that's part of the plan to make sure I get on the highway correctly and safely. And then once I'm on the highway, we go on down the road,
I think when it comes to the change in where New Thought is going, I think there's a lot of new ministers coming up and through that don't even know the old philosophy. I had never heard the comment. I'm in the Northeast. I live in Rhode Island. I had never heard the comment, the best kept secret, till I went to ministerial school. And I thought, what a ridiculous thing to put out there. Are you kidding me? Why do they promote that? We're not that anymore. Well, every time you say it, you are that. What are you kidding? There's no secret here. And it's the same when it comes to other things. What do you choose? I love the practice of visioning, and our center, CSL Greater Boston, does it every week. Every Monday we vision, and I know here on this network, is it Monday as well, right?
Monday morning, yep.
Every Monday morning you do visioning, and it's a wonderful tool that we are casting Spirit's vision. We are planting the seeds we choose, and as we do that, things are changing, and they are changing for the good. When it came to when it came to Boston, there was a whole new beginning for us. And in that, one of the things was diversity. That was the top of my list when we were creating what do we choose to be. And, as we're out picturing and things are happening, there are more people of color in our group's things than there are otherwise. And I didn't do that I didn't do anything different. And it wasn't even me that realized it. It was another minister of color that said, look at your groups. And I'm like, oh yeah, huh? And I'm like, well, we called that from the beginning. That is something that was right at the top of the list of a priority. It has to be diverse. Not only is the city diverse, but the world is diverse. And now we even have programs where in the middle of a foundations class in Barbados that I'm leading, and it's exciting. We're all over the place, and it's not because of my vision, it's Spirit's vision. But my purpose was, let's get this out there and let's make it so that there is no walls. And it's what's happened.
Yeah.
And the statement that said, now, excuse me, Robert, you just made this pop in there, as opposed to the best kept secret, it should now be a statement that this is a philosophy whose time has come.
Yes. Now you're going to hit on one of my new favorite topics. And that is that we're not a religion, and we ought not to refer to ourselves as meeting in churches. And right, we have some intellectual, And the science of mind, let's, New Thought, folks, for those watching outside, remember, New Thought has many branches to its family tree. And you happen to be in a room with three folks that all went through relatively the same training with the science of mind or religious science, which is very much more skewed to the scientific side, to the scientific experiment and using experimentation to prove these principles. And so, and there I just lost my point. Uh-oh.
See, I was raised Catholic. I didn't find New Thought till later. And I was like, wow, this is how I've thought all along. When I found it, I had come home, but I was in my 30s when I found it after being, going to church every Sunday. And I love that it's not a religion. I love that we're a philosophy that, believes in, yes, it is that culmination of science, philosophy, and religion, but we are not, you have to do this. We are not, and I don't care what you call it. You can call it church, you can call it whatever it is. Our bodies are a church and a temple. So whatever it is you call, whatever your language is, we're not looking to be, I don't believe it's man-made. That's the difference. It's proven. These are not doctrines that we're telling you need to do this because we say you need to do this. You're following truth. There's a difference.
Yeah, yes. Robin, and go ahead. I was going to say, I think I was picking up what you were putting down. And I think, one thing, the essence of what I was hearing from you is that, I think we have to stop calling this a philosophy. I think we have to stop calling it an ideology, and we have to begin to think about using the term a way of life.
A way of life.
It will incorporate all of those things. You'll have a philosophy about it. You'll have an ideology about it. You'll have a practice about it. You'll have some rituals about it. And that it is not a religion. It is about an experiential way of taking universal principles, learning them, understanding them, and then putting them into practice so that you can verify for yourself, if nobody else, that this works. And I don't need to get religious about it or philosophical about it or ideological about it. I just need to live it as a way of life, and it will spread the energy or the vibe, as the young folk that I was surprised the young folk have come back to the word vibe, which was in the hippie time. That vibe will then spread across the universe.
Absolutely. So I'm going to say thank you to both of my colleagues for picking up the ball that I dropped. And yes, you're both right. Where I was headed was exactly that. We are a way of life. We have now, I believe, as organizations, as a movement, we have gone beyond proving that this stuff works. We all know it works. Popular culture knows that these principles work, that the law of attraction is real, that prayer does manifest, all the things that we practice. Everybody in the world's into mindfulness. Everybody knows that meditation is good for you, and your doctor will now prescribe meditation. It's kind of like, hey, doc, stay in your lane there, okay? But we're now at that point where if we're not making it a way of life, if we're not doing that, that's, in my opinion, metaphysical malpractice. Mm-hmm. We are here to create a life that works for all. We are here to be a part of the one life and create the environment. We all know that's what New Thought Media Network is about, creating that environment where we can tap into these good vibes. Let's rebrand that. Good high vibes. There we go. We're in on that, right?
Good vibrations.
Good vibe. Oh, yes. Now we're going to break out in song.
Yes. Well, and one thing I think when you was talking about that metaphysical piece, it struck me as like the Hippocratic oath of doctors, right? So a doctor when you go to medical school, right? And the whole thing about malpractice, you learn a philosophy, an ideology, a language,
right.
And then you have to go do a residency, right, to get some practice in so you can put everything in its proper place. And then you start living this thing. And that's what I think we have to become more that, if you will, as practitioners and adherents to this way of life, so that we begin. One of the ancient metaphysical sayings is, "O physician, heal thyself," right? And so we have to begin to heal ourselves where we have the ability to do that. And when we don't, we get to somebody who knows how to do it, like a doctor, right? We believe in the prayer and the pill, as Ernest said. But then we can begin to show how this stuff is integrated, and you don't have to take one or the other. We don't have to separate as the world is used to. We can incorporate the whole thing, which is what doctors are now doing with meditation and acupuncture and acupressure and Reiki, and I mean all that stuff that used to be taboo and in the back corners is now coming to light.
And I think also it's remembering that we are living in a world that lives from the outside in, looking for that quick fix, that is looking for a way to make everything better, bigger, better, faster, more. So I have a car, I need a better car. I have a job, I need a better job. I looking for that fix as opposed to realizing the gifts. So it's realizing that it's from the inside out, and we have to really be in a place of mindfulness with that. And what does that look like? What does that feel like? And how do we center ourselves as practitioners? Because anyone that is practicing this is a practitioner. It's how do we practice being in that place and steering that ship from the inside out, untethered by what I see, and keeping on that path of divine.
Amen.
There would appear
There
to
we
be
go.
and I hear you, right, Gina? It's yes, it comes down to the practice.
There's a lot of distractions out there.
Am I walking the talk? Do I get? And I'm reminded, Revzi and I've talked about this before. I would love to see a new thought expression of Muslim prayer, in that there is those 5 times a day, and you wake up in the morning, and before your feet hit the ground, you do that prayer that is a prayer of recognition. And as your morning goes on, 9, 10 o'clock, you need a little snack. And by that time, you've maybe had a few phone calls, maybe you've had a couple of conversations. Now we have that prayer of unification. And as the late afternoon wanes in, then we have a prayer of coming to a realization of what our day has been and how we can control that and how we can continue to direct that. A prayer for Thanksgiving at our mealtime, and a closing prayer, a prayer of releasing the day and opening to the new day as we retire for the evening, and being able to blend, right, all these different things that are a part of the rich tapestry that is humanity's spirituality, regardless of who originated it or where it came from. To me, that's another just deeper expression of how we can be oneness.
Woo, boy, you got me. You got my wheels turning over here.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to look at that one.
I think sometimes too, it doesn't have to be that set. I think sometimes it's taking 5 minutes. I love the term check up from the neck up. Taking 5 minutes to take myself out of my mind and into my heart space. So I don't have to say anything. I don't have to be anything. Be still and know. Yeah. And doing that as many times a day as we possibly can. When we're angry, when I was frustrated with someone this morning, and my first thought was, beautify my thoughts, fix my eyes, help me to change what's going on in me. It's never about someone else. It's how I'm reacting to that someone else. So it's learning how to, instead of seeing the world, coming back within and allowing that highest part of me to see things differently. And it doesn't have to, it can be, I mean, that'd be beautiful to have the routine of I'm not that disciplined. I know myself enough that maybe someday, but that wouldn't, I know when I give myself that container to not think of the outer and stay on the inner, even if it's 5-10 minutes, I'm better for it. And yes, that 5 times a day is a wonderful thing to strive for. But, I encourage people, start with once, start with twice, because sometimes for me, I hear 5 times and it was daunting because I've gotten that call from spirit for years to meditate 5 times a day. And I thought that was crazy because I didn't even do it once. You want me to do it 5 times? So now I'm up to at least 2 or 3, and I strive for the 5. But it's much better than it was.
There's when you look at the history of the 5 times of the Islamic prayer, it's quite interesting because this was you may have heard about, or you can go and read about Prophet Muhammad's ascension to heaven, and on his way he passed by all these other prophets, and he goes up, he passes by Moses, and when he comes back down, Moses said, "What you get? What you get?" Well, we're gonna pray 50 times a day. Moses said, "Oh, no, you can't. You got to go back and get that cut down." So it goes back several times, and it comes down to 5. It was a lot more before it got to 5. And as you said, the beauty of the Islamic prayer 5 times a day, it follows the movement of the day. So because we can easily be so lost before the sunrise and noon that we could be so far off, just like sailing. If you're off 1 degree, by the time you get to your destination, you're somewhere lost out there. And so it's 2 things, just that one, to get that discipline, because we need discipline, right? And then the other part is, from an Islamic perspective, there is a prayer for everything. So those short, what we call duas or supplications, there's one to put your shoes on. There's one to go traveling. There's one to go to the bathroom. There's one when you finish using the bathroom. I mean, there are thousands. And so the idea is to constantly stay in a state of prayer, which is what people do when they do in meditation. They say Buddhist perspective on that is you want to constantly be in meditation. So you have walking meditation and working meditation. And that begins to build up as we're starting to advocate now, this way of life, so that if something bad or good happens, it's prayerful. If something bad or good happens, I can step into meditation. Then we become the living Buddha or the Christ or the Muhammad example, where people look at us and say, I don't know how the heck they do it, but they do it with class and artfully. Well, I think I might need to try that thing out.
I forget which book and I forget which class, but I do remember the teaching that says to pray unceasingly.
Yep.
And that's what you're saying there, Z, right? Is to pray. I thought about it. 50, my gosh. Well, that's like one every 23 and a half minutes. That's a bad math. Let's just go to 48, make it every half hour, right? But
yes.
But that's the simplistic way of getting out of it. That's how we hide ourselves from the opportunity, from the light, from the experience, and to be prayfully, unceasingly. And that's not hard. It just is a recognition and a remembrance that every word we speak is a prayer.
Yep. And then we always have that song that says, your prayer is my prayer too. So inevitably, the whole universe is praying at some point all together, one unified thing. Because when I pray for me for a specific situation, that vibration will hit anybody that's resonating at that same point. So now we get back to the science of this thing, where we know that there's resonance, we know that there's touch points, and we know about the quantum that's if you separate two things that are correlated across the universe, they respond instantaneously.
All right. LZ is talking about quantum physics, folks. That means it's our time to take a break. We need to give a moment to our sponsors and let some more people know about what we're doing here at New Thought Media Network. But I promise we can continue the quantum physics analogy when we get back after the break. We've got more to hear from Reverend Gina as well. So please don't go away. Stay with us. Hit the like button, share button, subscribe button. Let your friends know what we're doing. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes after these breaks. Stay tuned. Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors and donors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown Atlanta, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Spiritual Center Kitchener, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, and all of our individual donors and sponsors. Thank you for being a part of the New Thought Media Network. Please come be you. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you to everyone that's making this network possible through your financial donations and contributions. You know, every dollar goes a long, long way to making sure we can share this mighty message out into the world, and it allows us to have these groovy conversations. All right, I got to change that. These high vibe conversations about where this mighty philosophy of New Thought is going, because we know this stuff changes lives. I don't think there's anyone in this room or watching or that's going to watch this at another time that doesn't intuitively know this philosophy, faith, way of life has the ability to change your life, and that you have the ability to create that life you truly desire. Sometimes I think people want to get in the door and get it done and get back to life, rather than realizing, wait a minute, this is now what's going to be your life. Because it's really hard to deny this stuff once you know it. It's really hard to hide from these truths and these principles once you know them. So, Gina, that's one of the things we like to explore on this program. And so we're going to throw that question your way to start this segment. It seems fairly prevalent out in the world today. There's this thing called spiritual bypassing. Lots of people like to use it. Lots of people like to throw it around at each other. And we like to kind of explore, how do you see it happening? But more importantly, how do you support somebody in moving beyond that experience of spiritual bypass?
It's really called denial. It doesn't make it not there. It's just pretending. And, you can pretend all you want. It doesn't go away. It's still there. It's just resonating in your body. You're holding on to it. So that which you don't release, it stays with you. So any pain, shame, guilt, fear, anything that's going on in your world that you are not acknowledging, truly acknowledging and healing, is going to come up in different ways. And we know that, when the weak league comes along, it turns into dis-ease. And, we get a choice. And it's not, we can know all is well and experience pain. We can know all is well and feel struggle and sad and grief and every emotion under the sun. And it's okay not to feel okay. It's not the truth of who you are. It's just in the moment, there is something going on that does cause pain. And that is being human. And when we don't acknowledge our humanity, when we don't really honor it, that's where we get into trouble. That's where life becomes, I've seen it, and it's, for me, it's how I spend most of my life. So I am quite careful not to go to not to discard what I don't want to see. Honestly, I remind myself when anniversaries are coming up because I want to look at it. I want to prepare myself so that I am not pretending it doesn't matter. My experience matters. And when I don't, it turned into addiction for me, food addiction. Everybody has their own point in life. Some people are just jerks and they react to life because they're not reacting to what happened in life. Everyone has their way of dealing with life on life's terms. And denial, I can tell you firsthand, does not work. So when we are in a teaching that so many just sit there with the, oh, all is well and it's okay, just give it over. And sometimes it's that simple, and sometimes it needs work. Sometimes it needs forgiveness, sometimes self-forgiveness. That has been my greatest, not just lesson, but that has been one of my greatest things I've had to practice. Self-forgiveness, self-compassion, really coming to a place of allowing myself to be human, because I'd allow you, but never me.
Yeah. Well said.
Yeah, and just I like your input or your idea on because one thing I heard you saying there, there is no one size that fits all. And it sometimes appears that that's what's advocated, right? Oh, if you just do this, well, that may work for X, Y, and Z, but it don't work for A, B, C. And so, how do you begin to I don't want to say explain. How do you begin to articulate this idea that we each have to become or define or get our own connection so that we get our own vibration from the divine? And when that happens, we kind of know exactly who, what, when, where, and what to do.
So often we're desensitized. We are told to just keep going. When you have bereavement of 2 to 3 days when someone dies, how do you possibly comprehend the emotions that go with the loss in 2 to 3 days? We live in a society. Aren't you over that yet? No. When you lose someone close, you will never be over it. It is a wave that will be part of you for the rest of your life. If you think you should be over it, someone misinformed you. Yeah. You can cope with it. It doesn't have to draw you up under like the riptide, but it will be a wave of emotion in you forever unless you are denying it, at which point, at some point, it will rip you under. So it's being aware of who you are and honoring it, because grief is real. And I think for the first time in my experience, it became, everybody was willing to talk about it in 2020 because everybody was experiencing it. Suddenly, people could talk about grief. Suddenly, people could talk about anxiety. Suddenly, everybody got it. Well, you know what? It was there all along, and it's still there. And it's important to have the conversations. You are still spiritual if you're sad. You are still spiritual if you honor exactly where you are. And if you don't, you may not know how to. It's a practice like everything else is a practice. but it's important, especially when we have children, because the new ones coming in, just like I like the term cable ready. They come in, they're not afraid of technology, they're not afraid of anything. They also a lot more sensitive than we were.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to, as the quote unquote adults in the room, be aware that, we may be hurting someone from our own ignorance.
Mm, yeah, I like that term, cable ready.
Yeah.
Because, and I do agree with you, right? The younger generations, and it's interesting to me, because 20 years ago, I sat in a foundations class and the minister told me that, every class comes in with a little more knowledge, and picks this up a little easier, that every single class has an easier time of grasping the concepts of new thought. And that was a lot of years ago now. So I'm pretty sure that the kids coming in today, if that holds true in just our philosophy, then that holds true across all traditions. And that holds true in so many ways. The conversation I was talking about earlier, that was one of the points I made with my colleague yesterday, is just that the kids today have a greater sense of freedom to honor and listen to and be who they truly are. When I was a kid, that could be dangerous. Now it's still in some places in North
Yeah.
America and across the world. Actually, it's
It's
still
frightening.
very, very
Across the
dangerous
world, it's frightening.
to express the truth of your gender, to express the truth of your sexual identity. It's still very dangerous in many ways. And here in North America, or at least in certain pockets and in certain states, it's a lot safer than it used to be. And so it would appear that there's that many more people, that there's, that we're being overrun by trans folk. And I don't think that's the truth. I think it's always been there. It's always been a part of our population. It's just now we're at a point where we can have these conversations. We can talk about, as you say, Gina, we can talk about grief. We can talk about anxiety. We can talk about these other aspects of living a spiritual life.
Without blame, shame, or guilt.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just allowing people to be who they truly are here to be and honoring that in each other.
Mm.
Yeah. And of course, I got to get back to my quantum physics thing, because this is the perfect platform for it, right? Because we know the vibrations, if you will, the quantum field is more charged now. So these vibrations are moving. So, as Gina was talking about grief, I went to see an action movie the other day, and there was a scene in the action movie that brought back a grief for me that happened like a lifetime ago almost. And those emotions were right there, right? So that sensitivity is always there. But now, because the vibration is high, I think the new generation, as you said, the cable ready, we only had 3 stations. Cable has hundreds and thousands of stations. Yeah. So if you use that metaphor, they are picking up all kinds of signals and vibrations. And so this whole thing of being more sensitive, I think, is true, which gives them a greater capacity to love, a greater capacity to live into, because they can pick up different frequencies of it. But the whole gang, back to what we were talking in the beginning, this whole idea of separation is literally killing us, because on the one cable fiber, all the channels are coming across at one time. I don't need a separate one for ABC or separate one for NBC. It come across one, and then I filter out what I want. And that's where we have to begin.
But the tricky thing is, a lot of people don't know that there are those channels. So you have places like this show, this network, where we say there, wherever you are, welcome. Whoever you are, welcome. And if you haven't found your passion, if you haven't found your tribe yet, welcome. Because, I love, I don't consider it a bad term. I think we're the land of misfit toys. the ones that didn't want to conform to everybody else. I want to live on that island. I want to be there. I want to create more spaces that are safe for the misfit toys. Let's be in that place and know that it's exactly who you're supposed to be and honor the differences in each other. And those are the conversations that we're having. And that's what's beautiful. It is uncensored and it is growing. And it's growing because people feel truth. It's not because we tell them what to do, it's because they feel the truth as people speak.
Right. You hit on another really important part that I love to echo when I hear it and remind the audience. We're not here teaching people what to think, but we are more than happy to teach people how to think. And we're more than happy to share perhaps a different perspective, or perhaps a similar perspective to what they've learned in their lives. It's in the old days, I'm flashing in my head, right? We were referred to as a teaching and healing order. The teaching always came first. The opportunity to be in community and be in a like-minded community, learning something new. We tend to teach people how to control the conditions of their lives and how to work with these different things. So before we go, I want to make sure we do touch on that, as a matter of fact, because Gina, you are part of New Thought Media Network, and New Thought Media Network, we haven't announced this officially yet, folks, but we're in the process of putting the final touches on a new platform that'll allow people to share their classes and their educational opportunities and such. And you're already working on, and I know you have most of this, but we're already working on getting it on the new platform.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your book and a little bit about the class that you're going to be bringing forward.
Your Journey to Happiness is the book, and I'm going to put that out there. This is the actual book. It is a 10-step process. Trade your worries and regret for your happily ever after. And you can actually go to Amazon for that. If you look up my name, it'll be there. And I just encourage you to... We're both taking it out of there at the same time.
Too many producers in the room today.
So it's learning how to, joy is inherent. It's exactly where you are. Now, no matter what's going on in life at different times, you fall off on different places. And you know that you're in joy when you're feeling good. But when you're not, that's the rumble strip. When you're starting to feel sad or angry or whatever it is, something's happened. So it's about finding your way back to joy. It's never gone anywhere else. It's always within you and it's always accessible. So this is a 10-step process of getting back on track. Now, you don't start at 1 every time. You may start at 8. You may start at number 7. You may start wherever it is that you feel, oh yeah, that's what's missing. You know, whether it's self-care, whether it's, there's a toolkit in the back. It's really just about, it's a simple way of getting back into the focus of who I truly am and who I truly choose to be in this world. Because, the two main questions as a life coach that I've asked people is, who are you? And what do you really want? And most people don't know the answer to those questions. So this is a 10-step guide to get you and keep you in that place of joy. And it will be on the network. It'll be on that, to be able to, go at the rate that you want to go at. And you can reach out to me and ask any questions once you've been through it or all the way through it.
Yeah, beautiful. And we will be sure to let you know when that is ready. For all of you out there watching today's show, we'll be sure to let you know when that's ready for you to jump in and explore more and learn more about that. So now we are rapidly approaching the top of the hour, and we're not covering half the stuff we wanted to, folks. So before we get to top, we want to make sure we get to our final thoughts. But before we do that, Gina, you also brought a poem with you, and I thought it would be even more appropriate to give that a moment of time. So we've got it on the screen here for you. Would you like to read that out for everybody?
Absolutely. It's called I Have a Dream. I too have a dream. In my dream too, we all are equal, and nor color, nor religion, nor income defines who we are. Neither country nor region defines us as kin. Whether 2 legs or 4, plant or animal, We were all created of the one Creator, with no greater claim to borrow this beautiful earth. In my dream, we all are one, treating each other with love and respect, and living in peace. We are all truly awake, knowing our purpose to share love and joy, to uplift each other, and in doing so, uplift ourselves. In my dream, we each remember and appreciate each other and truly understand all is well.
Beautiful. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. That is gorgeous. I might borrow that.
Anytime, you feel free. You feel free. We can post that too if you want. We can post it in the comments section on
Yes.
on the both on Facebook and YouTube. So if people want to borrow it.
Beautiful. All right, folks, if you wonder what you stumbled into here today, this is New Thought Today on the New Thought Media Network. Happens every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Mountain Time, which means we're just plumb about out of time. But before we do that, we always like to wrap up with our final thoughts for the day. Let's kick it over to Rev Z to get us started.
Yeah, I think, something that we said earlier, and I think we should start propagating. New thought is a philosophy, ideology, and a way of life whose time has come. Whose time has come. And it is our heartened desire is to make it available to all.
Beautiful. Rev Gina.
I'm grateful to be having real conversations. I am grateful that there is no topic that is a taboo. I am grateful to know that all experiences and all emotions are welcome and honor them all, and that we are in a place that does just that. So thank you for this beautiful conversation of open engagement and truth.
Beautiful. Thank you. I'm grateful that we're a place where your kitty cat can show up too.
I'm so sorry. It's so funny. She's never out and about.
So I'm grateful she decided to make a guest appearance as well. And I'm with Z on the time has come. The time has come. And New Thought Media Network is working to create an environment. And through poetry, through written word, through books and podcasts and blog posts and these video broadcasts and the special events and the community platform and even the stuff we're not telling you about yet because it needs more time to percolate. I'm really all in that place of gratitude to recognize it is a way of life whose time is now. And we get to take this now into the next day and the next day and the next day. And we are creating a culture where prayer is unceasing. We are creating a culture of inclusivity and equity and diversity and empowerment for all. It's a mighty, it feels like a really, really special time to be alive on the planet with this wisdom at our hands, with these principles at our command. That feels like enough. Thank you, folks, for being with us. This is New Thought Today on the New Thought Media Network. Now, we'll be back again next week with Reverend Dr. Dennis Merritt Jones. You may remember we had him scheduled a couple months back, had some technical difficulties. We've gotten him rescheduled. He'll be with us next Tuesday at 2 p.m. I promise you it'll be a great interview. And again, thank you, Reverend Gina, for being with us and taking time out of your schedule. Really appreciate that you've been here. I want to make sure we get you scheduled to come back again sometime in the near future too.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. All right, folks, we're out of here for now. Stay tuned. Until next time, we want to wish you peace and richest blessings. Bye now.